Good morning, everyone. I'm John Hempelman from Seattle, and I'm honored to be the president of the board of the Henry M. Jackson Foundation. So welcome today to this program, which is co-sponsored by the Bipartisan Policy Center and the Jackson Foundation. The foundation was established over 30 years ago after the untimely death of Scoop Jackson, our senator from Washington. But the foundation has carried on his legacy, and one of the core missions of the foundation is to continue to seek to bring back civility and bipartisanship in the Congress. And the senator's qualities of leadership, vision, openness, determination, and civility are relevant today.
And this is a series where we look at leadership not in the abstract, but we really like to look at leadership of particular institutions. If some of you have been with us before, we've had the majority leader in the Senate with Senators Lott and Daschle. We also looked at congressional leadership in foreign policy. Today we're looking at the leadership of second-term presidents, and we have a panel of people who are extremely knowledgeable about that, having served in and covered multiple presidents that we can talk about today.
People forget when I came back to the White House, it was the depths of Iran-Contra. When Howard and I came, Ronald Reagan's poll ratings were 37%. He wasn't viewed as a lame duck, but as a dead duck. The last 2 years were going to be floating by and not much was going to get accomplished. We had lost the Senate, which we had held for the first time in 25 years, for the first 6 years of Reagan. We had lost it. We had overwhelming majority of Democrats in the House under Tip O'Neill. Ronald Reagan, Howard Baker, myself, others, decided that we were going to demonstrate to the American people and the world that Ronald Reagan was absolutely viable, strong leader, and could get things done in those last 2 years. In order to achieve that, Reagan believed he needed legislative victories. He believed that we couldn't tilt with windmills anymore. He thought it was essential that we had some foreign policy successes. Some presidents think their job is to build consensus in Washington. Ronald Reagan's view was that he had to build consensus in America in order to get Washington to act.
In some respects, any first-term president inherits an agenda from his predecessor. I think as you get to a second term, you get to shape your own agenda much more clearly. And the second term was a very productive one for President Clinton.
Watching this from the outside, not from the inside, is that I think presidents are shocked by how rapidly attention and power seeps away from them in a second term. You know, they win a second term, which is a really historic thing to do. Not that many people in American history have managed to do that, and yet the first 2 years are much more difficult than the enormous boost they get from the first 2 years of their first term. And the second term 2 years, I think, are very difficult. After that second midterm, which is characteristically catastrophic, although not for President Clinton, who defied all the history on that and did well in his second midterm. But you know, reporters stop coming to the briefings. Attention turns to the next set of presidential contenders. Members of Congress, to the degree they were afraid of presidents, are less afraid of presidents because they know that they're going to still be there and the president is going to be retiring. And so it's been interesting to see how presidents respond to that. But I do think it is always a surprise to presidents that suddenly they are less powerful than they have been in the past. It requires a different kind of leadership in that situation. I think that's one reason presidents turn to foreign policy more in their power to control, or why, as President Obama is doing now, is turning to executive orders, because it's harder to get things through Congress when you're in that second term situation.
The reality is that Ronald Reagan was the ultimate pragmatist. Tip O'Neill used to say, I don't like compromising with Reagan, because every time I do, Reagan gets 80% of what he wants. And Reagan would say to Jim and Howard, myself, and others, I'll take 80% every time, and I'll come back the next year for the additional 20. That's what governing is all about. And in the second term, maybe you only get 70%, but if you're a good salesman, as Clinton was or Reagan was, you make it look like 80. And then you still come back for the additional 20.
It really drives me crazy when I hear the administration talk about a legacy issue. Legacies are written by historians after the fact, looking back on what you accomplish. You don't write your own legacy. People who come after you write your legacy. Susan writes your legacy. Historians write your legacy. You focus on getting things done. And if you get a lot of things done, you'll have a good legacy. And if you don't get a lot of things done, you won't. And I've passed that on to my friends. I think this, once you start thinking in terms of legacy, you stop thinking in terms of getting things done. So I just want to make my general screed about the word legacy.
Look how complicated it gets for second-term presidents who usually have, as you pointed out, have presided over the demise of their party in terms of at least one house of Congress. They have been good for themselves often, but not so good for other members of their party. And if you're a second-term president, by definition, you've set up an enormously difficult situation for whoever's running for president for your party afterwards, because only once in modern times, only once since World War II, has a party won 3 terms in a row.